So in today's video, I want to answer a viewer question that I have here from one of my previous videos, which was about self-inquiry versus meditation. The question is, when you recognize yourself as awareness, do you still sit and abide as awareness as a daily meditation practice? Right? So I want to actually expand this question. So I definitely want to answer this question, the main aspect of this question later on in the video. However, I want to begin with just the question that I always get, right? Do I need to sit down and meditate every single day? Do I need to sit down and formally, right, close my eyes and even practice self-inquiry every single day? And in the beginning stages, right, no matter if you're just getting into meditation, conventional meditation, or in the beginning stages when you have been meditating for a while, but the beginning stages of inquiry, when you're just getting into self-inquiry, I always recommend to actually sit down twice per day for 15 minutes each time to formally do meditation or self-inquiry, right? Whatever stage you currently find yourself in, whatever resonates with you. The reason I say this is because in the beginning stages, right, it's difficult for you to practice abiding as awareness throughout the day. There needs to be there needs to be a transformational period, a transitioning period where you're allowing yourself the time and the room to grow, to really cultivate this sense that I am that awareness, to cultivate your acknowledgement of your own presence, which is difficult if you don't actually sit down and meditate every single day. So many people say, oh, I don't like to meditate, and you don't need to meditate. I like to, just go for a walk and just be present. Or I like to just paint or go hiking, or whenever I'm doing my artwork or whatever, that means I'm present. And use those activities to become present. However, give yourself the gift of actually sitting down twice per day for 15 minutes each and have no intention other than to disengage with everything. Every single concept, every single thought, every single, even a sense of yourself as I am this, I'm Sunny with this career, with this relationship, disengaging from everything. See, you can't do that when you're out and about hiking. You can't do that when you're biking, when you're doing your artwork. There's still constantly a sense of me here doing this for the purpose of whatever I'm doing it for, so on and so forth. So even when you become present, there's still, the perception of a me doing something separate other than me for whatever purpose. In the beginning stages, it will really help you if you sit down and meditate. It will really help you if you sit down and inquire. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. Now, the question asked, when you recognize yourself as awareness, do you still need to do this every single day? So this is what I always break down into 3 stages. So even in my program that I do for my clients, I break this process down into 3 stages. Number 1 is where you're actually just doing conventional meditation, right? Where you're just getting into this sort of thing. And that is the stage of discovering presence, okay? Recognizing that when there are no thoughts, there's no identity, there's nothing. When I disengage from everything, still there is something. When nothing exists, there's still this presence here, illuminating my experience. Okay, so that is discovering presence, stage 1. Now we get into stage 2, where this is the process of self-inquiry, self-investigation, where now this presence that we are discovering, we are recognizing it to be ourself. Before, there was this sense of a person discovering presence. Stage 2 of this process is you recognizing that you are that presence. And stage 3 is now learning to live your life from that presence, learning to abide in and abide as that presence and living from that presence, really bringing it into your day-to-day life. So see, in the second stage, we are still learning to recognize that I am that awareness, right? That's just like the first stage of this process. Well, the second, but it's just like the beginning, early preliminary stage. This is where I'll ask you to get rid of all of your concepts or your beliefs about self-realization, enlightenment, what it's supposed to be, right? Because you're conditioned with a sense like enlightenment is a goal that you're supposed to attain, a state where you're just loving and peaceful all the time and everything like that. I want you to kind of throw all those beliefs out the window and see that recognizing yourself as that awareness is not like a one-time thing, and it's not something that just once you get it, then that's it, right? Even recognizing that I am that awareness, right? That is the stage where now you will constantly flip-flop between the sense of being a person and this mind and body identification versus recognizing yourself as that presence. So it's now like learning to stabilize in and as that awareness, right? And this is a progressive realization. You have to let it ripen up a little bit. And that's the whole process of self-abidance, stage 3, really learning to live and establish your sense of self in that presence as that presence. So in this stage, now meditation is no longer formally required, right? Sit down meditation, sit down self-inquiry is no longer formally required. Matter of fact, the originator of self-inquiry, Ramana Maharshi, right? He never actually prescribed self-inquiry as a sit-down practice. He said, do it throughout the day. I just say, for the way the times have changed and the culture that we have is very mindy, now I say in the beginning, I recommend 100% do it as a sit-down practice, and obviously do it throughout the day as well. As you are starting to recognize and abide in that awareness, now meditation and self-inquiry is no longer just a sit-down practice. Now the goal becomes to recognize that same recognition, right? Have that same recognition and have that same sense of peace and disengagement and detachment that you have in meditation when you're with your eyes closed. As now you want to also have the same sort of experience, same sort of recognition in day-to-day life with your eyes open. So that is the transition we want to make slowly, where we no longer rely on our sit-down, eyes closed meditation and inquiry as a means to connecting to ourselves and recognizing what we are, versus now this awareness is flowing throughout the day. And now meditation doesn't become like a sit-down practice for 2 times a day. It's just whenever there's a desire to do so. And the desire to do so is never going to be like, oh, I've had too much, I need to disengage and I just need to be so I can find my peace again. Whereas it'll just be a desire to do so. And you can access that same sort of peace and recognition of your true self throughout the day when you're living as well, when you're doing your work, when you're conversing with other people. And the more this stabilization happens, the less you need to formally sit down and do this practice. Okay? So to answer your question in a summarized way, recognizing yourself as awareness is not a one-time thing, and it's not a sort of end-all practice, right? It's not the destination. It is simply just a step in the journey. Now learning to stabilize in that and everything, right? That is when meditation is kind of not so much more of a formal practice where you have to sit down and do this. It just becomes more casual, and there's no longer a need to use it as a means to an end. In the beginning stages, yes, do it. Just do it twice per day for 15 minutes each. If you want to refine your self-inquiry practice and accelerate your growth through these 3 stages, you want to dissolve the ego and realize your true self, then consider my program down below. It's called the Higher Consciousness Shift. Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. I hope it brought you a ton of value. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Let me know your questions regarding this, and I may answer your question in a future video. Other than that, I will see you in the next video.